YouTube, what is up? James MTG Biggie here, and today, as promised in my previous video, we are going to be doing a standard deck tech for Rivals of Ixalan Standard. Now, I know some of you may be thinking that we haven't got the full list of spoilers yet, or that we have a lot yet to be spoiled. However, I feel like for this specific archetype, the previous standard, it was only a handful of pieces away from being a real competitor, and I think we're already looking at what could be the real deal going forward in standard. Now, I'm not saying this is going to dethrone Temur Energy, or this is going to be the best deck in standard, but I'm confident in saying that somewhere in the next handful of months, as Rivals of Ixalan settles into standard, this will be a deck in some form or fashion. Keeping in mind that there are more spoilers to be had, this is just the first draft of this deck, and what I feel like is a solid shell. It's what I've been testing for the last handful of hours since the spoilers have gone up in the last day or two. So, without further ado, here is Standard Merfolk for Rivals of Ixalan Standard. Now, before we get into the full meat and potatoes of it all, the full list of it all, I'm going to mention here that I'm using MTG Goldfish's visual deck builder as my, I guess, graphic here. And on their website, they did not have the key card up to be included in this visual view. So it is missing, but it is a 4-of Merfolk Mistbinder, an uncommon 2/2 for a green and a blue that is a Merfolk Lord. That's right, all your other Merfolk get +1/+1. This is an uncommon 2-drop bear Merfolk Lord, and I think it is exactly what the deck needed to be a player in Standard. Merfolk without a Lord is kind of a pile of really fairly costed creatures, when in the current standard we have a bunch of 2-drop creatures that are really busted, like Longtusk Cub and stuff like that. So without the Lord, Merfolk wasn't going to get there. Now we have a legitimate Lord, which brings us to the rest of our list. This obviously is a 4-of, absolutely, 100%, non-negotiable 4-of. But we'll get through the mana base real quick. Not too exciting. We were on 4 Botanical Sanctum, a couple Hashep oasis, I guess, would be the plural for oasis. 4 Unclaimed Territory, as we are a tribal deck, so fixing all of our colors works out well here. And then we are on 6 forest and 7 islands. So we're a 23 land deck, which is about where we want to be because our curve is topping off at about 4. So we don't want to overkill it, but we don't want to cut ourselves short on lands. Then we have 4 1-drops in Kumena Speaker. And then we have 8 Merfolk that come into play and basically draw us a card in Merfolk Branchwalker and Silvergill Adept. And then, of course, the Lord, Mistbinder, was the other of our 2-drops, next to 4 Metallic Mimic. This is the other pseudo Merfolk Lord that we have access to in Standard. So we're happy to play 4 of these. So in combination with the Mistbinder, hopefully our little dorks, our 1s and 2s, get really big. Beyond that, we are on a pair of Vineshaper Mystic, which is actually pretty solid. When it enters the battlefield, it puts +1/+1 counters on up to 2 of our Merfolk, which +1/+1 counters kind of matter. It's sort of the way that the standard deck gets around the lack of Island Walk, because they're not going to give Merfolk Island Walk in Standard, unfortunately. But the Vineshaper Mystic, and then we're on 2 of Kopala, Warden of Waves, which is our way we protect our Merfolk, make them harder to kill, harder to target. And then we are on another new card from Rivals of Ixalan. This is Kumena, Tyrant of Orazca, or Orazca. It is a 3-mana 2/4, which is pretty good stats above the curve, especially by Merfolk standards, but it has a lot of text. So you tap another Merfolk, and then this guy can't be blocked this turn. Or you can tap 3 Merfolk you control and draw a card. Or you can tap 5 untapped Merfolk you control and put a 1/1 counter on every Merfolk you control. This guy is insane. The fact that during a board stall, if we have this guy in play and we're developing a board and nobody's getting through on the ground attacking, we can end step start drawing cards off of our Merfolk is very, very powerful. In a deck that, outside of like the Silvergill Adept effects and the Branchwalker effects, doesn't draw a ton of cards. So we have to play creatures that help us draw to grind out games. Additionally, when we can flood the board, tapping 5 Merfolk and dumping a +1/+1 counter on every Merfolk we control is really, really powerful. It gives us a way to get above our opponents and kind of break the stall. It's kind of like a very slow Steel Overseer for Merfolk, which is still a very powerful effect. It being a legend, we can't max out on 4 of them. I'm trying out 3 at the moment, but a 2/4 is nothing to scoff at either. This thing blocks a lot of stuff in the format and just allows you to accrue value over time. So we're on 3 of that guy, and then we're on 2 Herald of Secret Streams, which allows our Merfolk that have +1/+1 counters become unblockable, which is very, very solid. And then we're on one of another new card from Rivals, Seagate Oracle. And this is whenever a Merfolk you control deals damage to a player, draw a card. I'm still on the fence about this. I want to test it. I think that drawing cards from our fish is pretty solid, but at a 4-drop, as a 2/3, it's pretty underwhelming stats-wise, so we're going to try out one of those for now and just see how it treats us going forward. Beyond that, we're on full 4 of River Herald's Boon because we're really trying to exploit the +1/+1 counters. So hopefully the way it goes is we play a Kumena Speaker on 1, an Adept or a Branchwalker or a Mimic on 2, and then we can actually start pumping up our team with the Boon and allow our Merfolk to grow rapidly. It's not going to be as fast of a growth as you see in modern Merfolk because we don't have like 16 Lords now. We're stuck on the 8 Lords plan, but the fact that we could put any counters on our guys and eventually they become unblockable is really, really solid, and it's the way that we get over top of Temur energy or Sultai energy or even Ramunap red, just to become evasive and fairly big. Other than that, the last card that I'm trying out in the main deck, it is an honorary Merfolk for us. It's not actually a Merfolk, it's the only creature that's not. And that's an oldie from Amonkhet, and that's Vizier of the Menagerie. And the reason being is, again, we're trying to accrue value and trying to out-attrition our opponents while growing up our small team of fish. And I think this is a very solid card that allows us to essentially have an extra card in our hand at all times. The ability to cast any one of our Merfolk off the top of our deck is very powerful, and we don't even have to fix our mana to do it. So I think this guy, as a 3 of, is a really good way to keep the fish flowing. I played in a game where I had a lot of my fish kind of swept away by a sweeper, and I was able to rebuild because I cast this guy and just started pulling Merfolk off the top of my deck. So that is our 3 of as an honorary Merfolk. So that is our main deck, and then we'll get down to the sideboard. The sideboard is going to be dependent on what else comes out. This is just sort of the first draft of the sideboard. We're on 2 Siren Stormtamer as a non-Merfolk, but a 1-drop that allows us some ability to dodge sweepers and to counter sweepers. This gets us around Settle the Wreckage, mainly. That, and it also can just protect our dudes from one-for-one removal. But the fact that this effectively counters Settle the Wreckage, we can feel confident in committing more to the board if we have one of these in play. So that's the reason there's a 2 of there. We're on 2 Nissa, Steward of Elements, which I feel like is another control card, where we can sort of have a bit more game and be a little less fragile to sweepers against a control deck. 4 of Negate. I think it's the best counter spell to have in your sideboard in the control mirror and wherever you're going to want counter spells. Any decks playing Planeswalkers, stuff like that. Appetite for the Unnatural is going to be our answer to God Pharaoh's Gift, to Drake Haven, to Abandoned Sarcophagus, to Cast Outs, any number of annoying enchantments and artifacts in the format, as there are quite a few of them. Also blows up vehicles, which is very relevant from time to time. 2 of Deeproot Waters, and I was on the fence about putting this in the main deck even, as generating hexproof Merfolk tokens whenever you cast a Merfolk is pretty solid. It feels like as a 3-drop when we're trying to be aggressive with our Merfolk, it feels like too slow of a card to really try to dedicate that much to it in the main deck. But again, in the sideboard, where we are worried about control decks playing Fumigates and Settle the Wreckages, we could start to rebuild an army quickly with it. It may be pretty good in the main deck, and that may be something we want to look at in the future, but for now, the way I'm testing, I'm going to try it out of the sideboard and see how it goes. Otherwise, we're on 2 Deathgorge Scavengers. This is for the God Pharaoh's Gift matchup exclusively. It's a good body on a creature as well, so it has some play there, but it's really the necessary graveyard hate we need for that deck. And then we are playing 1 of Unsummon, just as kind of a tempo play against some of the other creature decks like that. If a Long Tusk Cub gets out of hand, or you just need to push damage past a Scarab God or something like that, you just bounce it and push through some damage. Just a good utility card that I don't think we want in the main deck, but certainly why not try the sideboard. Other considerations for the deck were pretty easy, pretty like relevant cards that could be in the deck, such as, well, it's escaping me right now. I am sorry. Oh, Blossoming Defense. My bad. Blossoming Defense is a card that we considered, and in my original Ixalan standard brew of Merfolk, I had it over River Herald's Boon as a 4 of, and I just feel like we're trying to leverage the counters too much, and they're much more effective now. So Boon is a little bit better, but I can also see Blossoming Defense being somewhere in the list. Outside of that, I think the core of Merfolk we have is solid. I think every Merfolk deck that you're going to want to build in Standard should definitely have 4 ofs: the Speaker, the Branchwalker, the Silvergill, and then the Mistbinder. And then the place where you start playing with numbers is in the sort of more expensive, the Kumena Tyrant. The 3 and 4 drops is where you start kind of tinkering. But I think the core is solid, and I think that the deck has a lot of potential in Standard, and I'm very excited for it to do a lot of great things, and I hope it does, because I absolutely love Merfolk in Modern and in Legacy and other formats. And I think it's about time that we have a good standard Merfolk deck. I think if we keep the core of creatures the same and adjust the things that we need to and smooth out the deck as much as possible, I think we're looking at a real standard deck, and I couldn't be more happy about it because I love me some fish. So that being said, guys, let me know what you think. Comment down below. Let me know what you think about the list, how you feel about the Vizier of Menagerie in there, and what are some tech or some cards that you're looking at for Merfolk. Who knows, we may get more tools for the deck by the end of the spoiler season. So like I said, this is just the very early list, and I look forward to tuning it and making Merfolk great again. Either way, guys, I'll talk to you again very soon, and I'm excited to hear from all of you.